Hello and welcome to Jim and Ben's Movie Adventures. My name is Ben and with me is...
Lincoln Hawk, and I'm ready to arm wrestle
And don't
fight.
forget, this is a double elimination podcast because this week we watched...
Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone from 1987, and I did not know this film existed until you presented it to me. So this is just... I have a lot of thoughts, but before we get into them, can you please tell us a little bit about this, movie? Shall we say movie?
It is cinema gold.
It's something.
Over the Top follows truck driver Lincoln Hawk as he tries to reconnect with his son, who he barely knows. On a road trip together, Hawk competes in arm wrestling matches while slowly rebuilding the strained father-son relationship. In the end, a big arm wrestling tournament becomes the way Hawk proves himself and wins back his place in his son's life.
Yeah, that's what happens. So this is a film from 1987. So tell us a bit about the production, and then I'm just going to give you all the thoughts because...
Okay, directed by Menahem Golan, screenplay by Sterling Sifilent and Sylvester Stallone, cinematographer is David Garfunkel, starring Sylvester Stallone, Robert Loggia, Susan Blakely, and David Mendenhall. Music by Giorgio Moroder, runtime 93 minutes, budget of $25 million, and only a domestic for this of $16,057,580. Now, Jim, I would like you to explain exactly why you loved this movie as much as I did.
Look, I wouldn't say I loved this movie. This movie, this is peak 80s, right? This movie is just peak 80s. And look, I know that's why you picked it. This is a reaction,
the goal, right?
This is a reaction to me choosing Entrapment, and I'm like, look, this is vintage 90s, and you're like, oh, I have something from the previous decade, and I'm like, yes, you do. So this is a movie that we've seen so many times before, but the combination of elements going on here is what makes it just really kind of odd. It's a strange mixture of, oh, I haven't seen that combination of these things before, but I have seen every single one of these things in this movie so many times. And I think the weirdest sort of cherry on top is that it's about arm wrestling. Like that's the part, right?
That's the hook.
That's the peak weird part, because if this movie was boxing, if this movie was, even rodeo riding, I'd take rodeo riding. There's something about the oddity of championship arm wrestling and the seriousness with which they take it that it just kept, I don't know, pulling me out of the movie. I don't know if that's it, because the movie is so serious. Now, I don't know. It is quite possible that the world of championship arm wrestling is a very serious thing and it's taken very seriously, but that sounds weird to me to say out loud with my mouth, So...
Well, first of all, championship arm wrestling, 100% a real thing, which I know you know it is. And it is very serious, and the sport itself is very psychological. I looked all this up afterwards because think about it this way. Like, if you can beat your opponent before you kind of actually commit to the arm wrestle, that's all the better, right? Because the mental game is strong, which this movie tries to explain that philosophy. It doesn't do it in the most poetic way. But he's like, you got to win in here before you can win out there. Like, and, you can only beat yourself and all that sort of stuff.
That's all well and good, but it's so niche. It's so niche that I'm a little bit like, it's to me, I'm like, it may as well be like marble throwing. Do you know what I mean? Like, or dominoes. Like playing the dominoes with the little, and because it's so high stakes, Ben, that's the thing that gets
you. It's a truck and $100,000.
It's a truck and $100,000, and it's the stakes of, will he ever, be with his son again, and will he get custody of his son? And it's a serious story, and it's just this arm wrestling is just thrown in there as the thing, right, that we're doing. That I really struggled to connect with that, because when you even said, like, okay, this movie's about arm wrestling and it's a trucker who's trying to get his son back and he's trying to arm wrestle, I'm like, oh, it sounds like a comedy. Is this a comedy? And you're like, nope,
No.
not a comedy. Like, it's just, we're just doing it. Like, we're just doing it. So does any of that make it bad? um they're not the things that maybe make it bad,
I would
right?
argue
Like,
they're the things that actually make this watchable.
they make it unique enough
Yeah.
to sit through. um the fact that we've sort of seen all of these characters before does make it a bit of a struggle to sort of get through. And honestly, look, I really like Sylvester Stallone in so many roles. I don't love him in this one. Like, this is quiet mode Stallone, where he's so quiet that it's really difficult to actually read any emotion in most of the scenes.
It's definitely not Rocky. It's kind of a bit more like Rambo acting, like for the first like half of Rambo, like where he's kind of like war torn and seeing stuff.
He doesn't have the edge of Rambo,
No,
though.
but like he is almost like a Zen master for the first half of this movie when he's dealing with his son, because his son definitely doesn't make it easy. His son is quite clearly a jerk, an elitist jerk.
Yeah, it's that's a difficult one because you've got a child actor and he's not a likable character. He's saying and doing things that are elitist and aren't very nice. So, um, but also this is really, even right here at the start, is where the movie almost starts to fall apart before it's begun, because we've got this idea of Lincoln Hawk, and this is Sylvester Stallone, and we're told, oh, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's the hero. I'm like, okay, so he why did he leave his family? And we are never
Spoilers,
told,
never know.
never told why he left his family a decade ago. He walks back into the son's life to pick him up unexpected from military school. The son's expecting the grandpa, and he gets his dad, who he's never met, and then we're sort of expected to think, well, but Lincoln's a good guy. I'm like, is he? Why? Because we're told he is, because Sylvester Stallone is playing this character. And it's also not stated as to why he now is suddenly so desperate to be back in his son's life. He just is.
Well, it's kind of mentioned that the mother who is dying,
Yes.
who dies in this movie, actually.
That was actually a twist
Yeah.
where it was like, okay, oh, she's halfway through and she's dead.
You never
Oh,
get to
wow.
see her.
Okay.
Wants them to reconnect because she obviously, because of the reason that he left, I think feels a bit guilty that they've never had a relationship. And on her deathbed is trying to fix it, because it's hinted at, and it's never said directly, that the he left because of conflict with the grandfather. What that conflict was is never explained. What we're led to believe is the grandfather said it was a legal activity, but he is a very unreliable narrator in this film. Like he can't be trusted in that story.
Yeah, and because it just seems a bit weak, I suppose. Like, for this man who is supposed to be such a caring father, such a good guy, to have no real explanation for why he sort of up and left the family, like, other than what you just presented. Because yes, that is mentioned towards the climax, that it was conflict with the grandfather. But again, you're like, oh well, if it's that important to you though, like, and so you know, so this is kind of the first part where the movie starts to sort of show its edges a little bit, because we're just sort of plopped in the middle here, and we're just sort of expected to get on board with these two characters, both of which have issues. Right.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, we're supposed to like both of them. Then you add the grandfather onto it. Now, the grandfather is just like straight out of a mafia movie. Like, the grandfather is just this, he's rich. He's so rich that he tries to kidnap his own grandchild halfway through the film. And I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, you're sending your goons to go kidnap your grandchild.
He's so rich that when the boy runs away, they assume he's running to their private jet. It's crazy. And like, you never find out what he does. And you kind of think if you ever asked him what he does, you'd disappear. Like he's crazy, that grandfather. And the goons who are loyal to a fault.
Yeah, yeah, like they are literally like organized crime style goons in the movie, even though the grandfather is not supposedly involved in anything shady like that. So,
Yeah.
but then the grandfather himself, like he's also just his whole character arc is I'm mean and I want custody of my grandchild, and it's a little bit like why? You're really mean. Like, why do you want custody of your grandchild? Like, you
The
know,
movie tries to present it as it's his legacy, like it's all he's got left of family, right? But yeah, it
yeah.
presents it in a way that is like so controlling and so manipulative and so nasty that it's hard to kind of understand his motives.
And look, you're right. You are patching all of these things that I'm seeing here with lines and things that are in the movie. I think my point is it just feels very thin. Do you know what I
I'm
mean?
having to try pretty hard though. Like I'm pulling thin threads together. The
But
story
you're
in
right.
this isn't
You're right
solid.
that you're right that they're all there. They're
Yeah.
all there. They're kind of hand wavy, but they are present. You know, it's
Mm.
not like it's completely not explained any of this stuff, but it's just a bit thin so that we can kind of get these character stereotypes together and get them into this sort of melting pot of a movie. And ultimately pair that with the idea that often I can find some joy in movies if I go, oh, well, there's some interesting cinematic techniques at play here. Now, aside from the fact that they up and decide they're a documentary for 30 seconds of it towards the climax,
It gets, I'm like, I had to like, did I just see that? Like that's so weird.
they literally just break the fourth wall and start talking to the camera as if they're talking to like a news crew, but
It's like it's Survivor, and they're talking about a tribal council. It's
it's
like,
never
yeah,
explained.
like,
Uh,
what they do, in case you don't know, is they interview the arm wrestlers at the tournament, and they talk about like the matches and why they love arm wrestling and who they are. So it's basically a technique to introduce these new characters that we've just met really quickly and give them some shading before they're not in the film after 3 minutes, basically.
yeah. But so look, but aside from that, it's a fairly conventionally shot 80s film. So it's not like there was stuff I could look at and say, "Oh, that technique, or that shot, or that thing." You know, it's there's some interesting kind of bits and pieces, but there's nothing that really strikes you as going, "Well, that's an amazing cinematic technique. That was different. That was unusual." So you're left instead for a long time with these characters and this story. And once you get over the kind of bizarro nature of it, where you just go, it's the mob boss granddad and the mum's dying, and it's the good guy even though he left his family, and it's the military son, and it's arm wrestling. Once you sort of get over the strange combination of elements, there's not a huge amount left, in my opinion, to capture your interest for the rest of the film. And the thing that I just kept thinking the entire time was the first 40 minutes of this movie is basically Real Steel with Hugh
Yeah.
Jackman, except that they swap out arm wrestling for fighting robots. And the whole time I just kept looking at it going, you know, Real Steel is not like a cinematic masterpiece, but man, it's a lot more fun than this movie.
How dare you? Does Real Steel have a part in the movie where the father forces his son to fight another child? I don't think so.
Look, it's an arm wrestle. It's not a fight. Let's not,
But
take it up
as
to 11
as a
here.
father, I'm not a father. I can't know these things. But as a father, would you find a stranger who is a child and then force your son to arm wrestle that child, not once, but twice,
Can I
in a
also
random
say
location truck stop?
the kid that they pick
Huge.
would clearly have won that every single time, and I don't care what kind of mind games you're playing, there is no way that kid that he picks to arm wrestle his own son, it does not win. Like, it was crazy to me. And then it's like, oh, he wins with the power of self-belief. There's a lot of self-belief in this movie. Look, and I don't mind some 80s self-belief. I can handle that, but it is it
I
is
mean, for
fairly
any parents
conventional.
out there, tell your kids to not let strangers arm wrestle them, is all I'm going to say. Because that was really weird. Um, Yeah, so you're right. It is all about belief, and there's like this message in it and stuff like that. And I mentioned it at the top of the podcast because we mentioned it while watching the movie. There's a line in this movie that turns out is actually slightly famous in that the commentator of the arm wrestling tournament mentions that it's a double elimination tournament about 33 times. That's over exaggerating. It's
It's
about 12.
crazy.
It's
It's
like a double
crazy.
elimination. So now, do you realize this actually introduces a plot hole into the movie?
No.
It introduces two plot holes. So, technically speaking, a double elimination tournament, when Hawk lost his first bout, he should have been pushed down into what's called a loser's bracket, where the losers then fight and then come to fight the winner. That doesn't happen. He just arm wrestles the next guy. The second thing is, Bull only lost once. He
Yeah.
wasn't double eliminated. So, in these tournaments, traditionally, the loser will fight the winner, and the loser has to make up the deficit of losses. So, he has to beat the guy twice. So, beating him once basically makes them even, and then beating him again makes him the victor. He only arm wrestles Bull once. It is a technicality, but it is a flaw in their own often mentioned rule of double elimination.
It was. I think I was still just baffled at how many times they mentioned that particular rule. Like you think, oh yeah, they mentioned it twice, cool, and then it just keeps going, and they keep mentioning it.
You're
But
like, oh, this is going to be a plot point.
by that point in the movie, he's arm wrestling for a $100,000 truck, a cash prize, and custody of his son somehow all together. Even though he's already actually signed over custody of his son, the grandfather is literally watching the arm wrestling tournament, and he's going. You can see it on his face. He's like,
You
if
see the
he
change.
wins, if he wins, I don't have custody of this child. I'm like, but why? It doesn't
But
make any sense.
Here's the deal also. At the start of the movie, the grandfather's own lawyer says, we've got nothing. He's got custody of the kid if he wants it. Like, if someone had just told Sylvester Stallone's character, like, you don't need to do all this, like, you can have custody, the courts won't stop you because you're not a bad person, we wouldn't have had this whole movie. Like, it's frustrating in that aspect.
Yeah, and that's where Hawk really didn't need to bash down the gate of the complex with the truck.
Makes his life more complicated.
You know, like that really was a wrinkle there that he didn't have to. But look, I don't know. So you put all of that together. Did I like it? Not really. I'm just gonna level with you. Not really. I very rarely text during a film, and I texted you for the back half of this film with various plot points, just being like, "Oh man, what are we even doing here?" Like, you know. And again, I think I just couldn't get past the arm wrestling thing. Like, it's weird how certain sports just really, you know, I'm like, that's. And it sounds like I'm being dismissive of arm wrestling. I guess I am. I'm not familiar enough with it to take it seriously. I don't know. Please don't hurt me, arm wrestlers of the world out there.
I don't think there's that many of them, and they definitely don't listen to this podcast. But like, the other thing that I looked at, I'm going, in this sport, there would clearly be weight divisions, right? Because weight is an advantage, size is an advantage. So much so that they even show shots in the movie of some people making up the size differential. Did you notice those shots and what those people were doing?
No.
Bunch of the arm wrestlers were wearing platform shoes.
Really?
Like sneakers, modified shoes to make them taller so they were the right height to arm wrestle properly.
Wow.
So I'm guessing, like, in this competition, all the podiums are the same height as like an equalizer, and if you're too short, you need to make up the difference. So yeah, there were people in like really stacked shoes, and it was kind of like a weird detail that I kind of locked in on for a while, like looking for the shoes. The other thing I liked is the characters they tried to give the arm wrestlers. They tried to give each arm wrestler like a really broad strokes thing. Like, one guy drunk motor oil. The other guy was Canadian. I mean, that's a thing, right? You know, there was a guy from the streets. Like, there was all this kind of stuff. And look, there was a moment where he beat an arm wrestler really quick. And the arm wrestler amped up and was going to fight him. And the three smallest judges I've ever seen in my life held him back. And it was like, I'm like, they ain't holding him back. They ain't holding him back at all. Also, the shininess of the people that competed in the arm wrestling, they were very, very shiny.
There was a lot of glistening.
A lot of glisten. A lot of glistening.
A lot of sweat on big muscles. Look, I know that I had never seen of or heard of this movie. My question is, how do you know of this movie?
It's a fantastic question. I'd never seen the movie, but
You've never seen it?
I'd never seen it before. But through the power of social media, I did know it existed because I'd seen some of the arm wrestling scenes on TikTok or Instagram or something like that. And I don't know why that was in my algorithm. Actually, I do know why that was in the algorithm. It's me. But like, it's in the algorithm because I'm who I am. And it was in my algorithm. And it's kind of been in the back of my head for actually quite a long time. But kind of what triggered me was when you're like, hey, like, I want to watch a really 90s film. And you watch a really 90s film. And then I was just thinking, what's the most 80s film I can think of? And I'm like, I haven't seen it, but I think it's over the top. Like, it's just so a product of its time. Like, can you imagine them remaking it now? And I think they could remake it now. I really do. Because you put someone like like a Jai Courtney, or someone's not super famous, but someone's like big and burly in this film and make it a...
Jai Courtney is the weirdest.
I don't know, but he looks tough face. I don't know why I thought of Jai Courtney, Captain Boomerang. No. No, I'm sticking with it. Jai Courtney. I'm going to cast
Set it
Jai
in
Courtney.
Australia, and they can ride kangaroos.
And put a lot more arm wrestling in it. A lot more. Because I think that's actually the problem with this film. There's not enough arm wrestling.
Actually, look, if we were to sort of look at it in terms of its pieces, I do think structurally and in terms of construction, there are some issues there, which are mostly about the idea that, there's not that much arm wrestling in the movie. The movie also, like, really, it's called Over the Top. It's about arm wrestling. It's in the 80s. It doesn't have to be a comedy to be a bit more fun than it is, right? Like,
but 80s films struggle with that line, right?
Yeah. I do think, though, it could have been quite a bit more enjoyable if we had kept the tender moments with the father and the son, but also had a bit more fun along the way, seen a few more colorful characters, a few more arm wrestling scenes. Basically, just make it Real Steel. Can we just make it Real Steel, please?
Well, the thing is,
that again.
The thing is, though, Real Steel stole from this.
I know. That's what I mean. I'm like, it's basically like if someone watched Over the Top and they're like, hey, there's bits there that would be really cool. And also, I like fighting robots. I think we're going to just do this. You know?
Also, Hugh Jackman's pretty popular right now.
Yeah. Like, that's the only thing I keep thinking of all the time is I'm like, we did this movie. We just did it a bit better. And we were trusting that no one had seen this one by the time we came along and made Real Steel.
I told you where to find this movie, but when I was looking at where to watch this movie, I typed in where to watch Over the Top, and it came back with did you mean Over the Hedge? I'm like, no, I meant Over the Top.
It's not a great name. Like, is this, and look, you can answer this. You did all the research. Yeah. Is this a real arm wrestling term? Send him over the top. Like, they say it all the time. I don't
think so. Like, I think it's with the movie. But the thing is, too, they introduce... So he hustles someone at the start of this film by basically re-gripping their thumb so they have no control and puts them down. And the son sees it and he does it, right? But that never comes back. He never does the re-grip. They even specifically say in the final arm wrestle... I thought
he did it in the final thing.
No, well, they split... He was talking about splitting apart, not kind of re-grip. I don't remember it.
I'm sure he does it in the final, like, arm wrestle. Like, I feel like I remembered seeing it, you know?
Which makes me feel like that move would be illegal.
Yeah, it doesn't seem right. Like,
no.
You know?
No, it like the only thing that comes up when you go Over the Top is like the idiom of like someone going too far.
Yeah, which again, like I think the thing with the movie is it doesn't quite go far enough. You know, with the comedy, with the arm wrestling, like
only once does it go too far, and that's him driving a truck into a mansion.
Yeah. Also, look, the the doing weights inside your truck as it's going along, I'm not sure if this is genius or terrible.
But
It's
even
one of
Real
the
Steel
two.
stole this to a certain extent. Them training on the road, like,
Yes,
oh,
yes. Literally they're doing the push-ups around the truck, all that sort of stuff, you know. But like the actual having the actual weightlifting, I
and
don't
he
know. I
it's
don't
got like
know
a he's got like
weights.
a resistance pulley in his truck cab,
Yeah.
and he's showing his son the specific movements. It's not normal like pulling out. It's like you do this, you do this. Like it's very kind of like it's trying to show that his whole life until now has revolved around driving his truck and arm wrestling,
Yes.
uh, and that's all he's done. The thing is to look. I keep coming back to at the start. Bull and him clearly know each other in
Yes.
such a way that you think that Hawk is a famous arm wrestler. You get to Vegas, Hawk is not a famous arm wrestler. He has terrible odds, and only Bull knows who he is. And also, he came from the Truckers League.
Yeah, everyone's got their place where they come from, you know,
Yeah.
like
From the professional circuit, and then we've got Hawk, Truckers
now
League, double elimination.
can I say as well, is his name Hawk or Hawks with an S? Because in the movie, several characters say, "You're never getting that, Hawks," and they put an S on it. And I am just like, what is this character's name? Because I am confused and I don't feel like I should be.
Here's the deal. I did look this up because I thought it was odd too. Turns out the writing is so good in this movie and the continuity is so good in this movie that they say both multiple times. And in the
Oh
trailer,
man.
he's exclusively referred to as Hawks instead of Hawk. But his name is actually Lincoln Hawk.
Yeah, look, it was slightly confusing, and I'm like, it doesn't have to be. What is your name? Tell us your name.
To finish this, I have a cinema question that other people might find interesting because it's a bit of a behind the curtain kind of thing. I remember hearing somewhere that Sylvester Stallone on a lot of his movies deliberately gets himself a writing credit. Is this true?
Yeah,
And why does he do it?
well, he started really as a writer. You know, he wrote Rocky.
Yeah.
So that's where he's comfortable. And when you sort of get to, I guess, his level, that yes, that idea that he does like to either ghostwrite or actually co-write, you know, the scripts, just to kind of protect, you know, I think particularly in the 80s, you know, because it was him and Schwarzenegger. They both had a certain image that they wanted
Yeah.
to portray on screen and protect. It's almost that authorial voice from the actor to try and sort of protect. So yes, that is something that he did quite often. Would either rewrite his own dialogue or you know, in some cases completely rewrite the script or co-write the script as well with other writers. So yes, it doesn't surprise me at all to see Sylvester Stallone as a screenplay credit in this film either.
I've seen it played as or spoken about as, and I don't believe this is the case, but almost like a manipulation tactic of getting more money. Like, because you're a writer, back in the day, having a writer's credit was better for residuals than being an actor or something like that. That's not the case.
Not as far as I'm aware. Like, you know, like I said, from my understanding, that was how Sly kind of
Just
started
protected himself, yeah.
and what he was comfortable with doing. I think it's quite smart, really, because it's literally like, you know, you can retain some without directing. You can retain a lot of control over your character and what you're going to do and say if you are literally the writer as well. You know.
Well, it just protects your brand. Like,
Exactly. So, so I think, and he had the skills to do it. So, so therefore, he often would. So,
I think people often forget he wrote Rocky. Like, well, they don't give him enough credit that he wrote Rocky because, like, that movie rules and is well structured and all those sort of things. And then they see him like writing on these sort of movies, and I think they kind of wonder. But like most of these movies, you're right, he didn't start. He rewrote parts or did his own dialogue and stuff like that.
yeah, and that is the thing. Like, he didn't direct the first Rocky movie, but like, you know, the thing is, he is the sole writer of the screenplay. So and that's smart too. Like that, just even that idea that like I'm going to write something for me. I'm going to write something that suits my strengths and suits my acting style, all that kind of stuff. So, look, are you ready to
Oh,
move to
I have one
something?
last fact, sorry, and
You're not
it's a small
allowed.
one. It's
I'm
really
done.
quick.
You can't do it.
I was kind of interested by the soundtrack of this film because it doesn't have any like huge 80s songs except Winner Takes It All, right? By Sammy Hagar. But what it does have is a song by his brother, Frank Stallone, called Bad Night. It's also got Meet Me Halfway by Kenny Loggins, but all the rest of it's kind of like not what I think of as classic 80s, but it's still kind of hooked my brain in that classic 80s way. And as I said, I just wanted to say it did have a song by his brother, Frank Stallone, in there.
Kind of enjoyed the 80s rock
Yeah.
soundtrack, going through like that vibed up the movie a bit. So
I think it's one of the most important parts of an 80s film. Like, because that music is so iconic. When you start getting into the 90s and early 2000s, that movie starts to blur together a lot for me. The 80s had such a sound of that kind of synth pop or that kind of like mixture of instruments and style that, yes, it really stood out to me in this movie when you're listening to it. And it does in almost any 80s themed or set in movie. The music is such an integral part. I just wanted to bring it up because we watched this movie because it was a very 80s movie.
yes, well, I think you succeeded in that brief. So why don't you tell the good people of the interwebs where they can find our other 88, I counted them, not,
Ooh.
I just looked at the numbers, 88 podcasts
Would
if
have been
they're
weird if you
interested.
counted them. So, if you want to listen to 88 other times where we talk about movies, some good, some bad, some brilliant, you can look up Jim and Ben's Movie Adventures. That works on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. Once you're there, find a movie you like because there's 88 of them. There's guaranteed to be one you like, or find a one you're interested in. See what we think about it. Leave a comment. Tell us what you thought about it. And if you like what you see in some of our old catalog, or you just loved this podcast, throw us a subscribe. Stay connected. Find out when we post our new stuff. Find out what our new stuff is, and you get to see it first and be ready for it. You don't have to. You don't have to keep searching for us. We're there. We're already there for you. If you want to follow us on any social media, you can do so at Jim_and_Ben on Instagram and Jim and Ben's Movie Adventures on TikTok. Now, Jim, are we going to break the pattern or are we heading to a new decade? What
Well,
film are we watching next?
here's the thing. Here's the thing. We're kind of going to break the pattern, but I'm also rhyming a little bit with what you did because we just watched a Sylvester Stallone movie, and like I said, over the top. It wasn't for me, right? Ultimately, it wasn't for me.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
say sorry. I thought it was brilliant and would watch again.
I would struggle to watch that one again, but I do really like Sylvester Stallone, and I thought I would like to watch what I think is the quintessential Sylvester Stallone movie. Now, we're not
Stop
watching
or my
Rocky.
mum will shoot.
Yeah, we're not watching Rocky because that's not how I was introduced to Sylvester Stallone. So the first film that I ever saw of Sylvester Stallone's was 1993's Cliffhanger. Um,
Oh, good movie.
and it's been quite a while since I've seen it. And I
John
was like,
Lithgow rules.
oh, he's so good in that movie. So I just went, the more I watched this one, and I was like, you know what Sly movie do I really want to watch? And do I want to talk about and do I want to share? Definitely Cliffhanger from
And
1993.
look, both the characters in this movie need absurd grip strength.
Yeah, that's right. So there's a link. There's a
Let's
link
link.
there. He took that grip strength and he just said, let's make another movie about it.
So I'm really looking forward to watching Cliffhanger next week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this current adventure. We'll hope to see you on the next one. See you next week, guys, or next podcast.